Most people are running through life without ever stopping to ask if they're running in the right direction.
We stopped.
Good day. My name is Juan de Dios Jara.
And I'm Christopher Marin. And this is a Growth and Development Group production. Sit down, pour something warm.
Because this conversation is for the individual that knows that there's more to them, but hasn't found the right room to talk about it yet.
You just found the room.
Ask me again.
Okay. Now, would you say our society is weaker now than it has ever been?
Well, it's hard to say, man, because I always haven't been around, you know? I mean, like, obviously, it seems like it is, right? It seems like our society is weaker now. And I've heard, like, you know, big podcast guys and, you know, big self-development people say that it's the easiest that it's ever been to be great. And I kind of agree and I kind of don't. I mean, because let's be honest, man, would Genghis Khan still have conquered 1/3 of the world if he had access to pornography?
Right. Yeah, I've mentioned this.
You know? Would Alexander the Great still have conquered how much he conquered if he had access to video games? Because those things supplement what they needed. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a big reason why I haven't accomplished much. Because in video games, that's where my conqueror lives. In virtual reality, not in reality. And if they were born with these tools, if they were born with these distractions, would they still have been great? They say it's the greatest that's ever been. It's the easiest that it's ever been to be great. I disagree. I would argue that it might be the hardest because a big part of being great is self-control. And we're robbed of that these days.
From what?
Gratification, phones, drugs, video games, pornography. You know what I mean? They never had to deal with those kinds of things. So I say all that to say, I cannot say for certain whether or not our generation or our world or society is weaker than the previous ones. Because how would they turn out if they had access to the things that we do?
Okay, now here's another question. This is good, bro. Did our ancestors have more inconvenience than we do now?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. I mean, life is convenient as fuck now, you know? Before, like, how long would you have to wait for almonds or nuts to be made by the tree? And then today, you just go grab a bag. Because we're all connected now. You can move stuff all over the world, like, overnight. So I would say, yes, our life is more convenient.
So is there a correlation between convenience and weakness? The more convenient things are, a weaker society becomes.
It's tough to say.
Yeah.
You asked me that, and what goes through my mind is how convenient life is because of technology. You know, like, before they had to plow the fields themselves, but then they developed the technology to have an animal plow the fields. Before they had to carry everything by hand, but then we developed the technology, which would be the wagon, to help us carry more things. So it's hard to say if it is convenience itself that has made us weak. It sounds good initially, but if we dive deeper on that, hasn't our whole existence been around having a more convenient life? Right?
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I want to say yes, convenience does make us weak. But it seems as though our entire society has been structured around making things more convenient for the next generation. So then is this like a suicidal thing that we're on? You know, I don't know. And I'm meaning that, like, if convenience is what makes us weak and our whole lives revolve around making the next generation's life more convenient,
right,
then would we not be leading ourselves to destruction? You know? It's hard to say.
Now talking about Jocko Willink and extreme ownership and Willink. Thank you for correcting me. And Jocko Willink and his book Extreme Ownership. Which book are you reading from him? Jocko Willink?
Discipline Equals Freedom, and I'm decided to read that every single day for the rest of my life. 15 minutes, digestible, very small portion. But it's more about the consistency.
Now, would Jocko Willink say with our society that it's the technology or it's the person who's self-destructing with the technology, or is the technology, you get what I'm saying?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I've never actually talked to Jocko. I've watched a lot of his podcasts, I've read a few of his books, so I don't know what he would actually say. But I would imagine that he would say it's more of a character thing than it is a convenience thing. Because I don't think that, well, I don't, and I can't speak for Jocko, this is just what I think. For me personally, I don't think that making, how do I explain this? We should not slow down the progression of technology. What we should do is bolster character. That's what I think, man. I think it's a character thing. More than anything, it's a character thing. I think specifically where we live, because I haven't traveled the world, so I can't speak for the whole world. But here where we live, I would definitely say there is a severe lack of character. And that's a byproduct of your environment thing more than anything, honestly. I would say. You know, because, like, I think that you can let your kid use a phone and an iPad and have them not be an iPhone or an iPad kid. I think you can do that, you know what I mean? I think, but it requires regulation. You can't count on them to do it themselves, you know? It's like we've talked about this before. Children live in a state of gratification. If you give them something that feels good, they're going to indulge on it until it doesn't, you know? So I think more than anything, what we have is like a poor parenting problem. And that's been just continuing for generations and generations until it's snowballed to where it is today. In our part of the world, we don't speak for the whole globe. What else you got?
Do you have a question? Does a question come up to mind?
What was the prompt again? Resilience and its place in the modern world?
Well, I had changed it. Resilience and necessity to inconvenience ourselves.
Well, I mean, to some extent, if you want to build resilience, you have to inconvenience yourself. It's like progressive overload, you know? If you want to get stronger, you have to make it harder. That's just how it is, right? So yeah, I would say you would have to inconvenience yourself.
So, because you brought up the character problem, so I'm thinking about the solution to that.
I mean, in a place like America where you really do have the free will to do whatever you want, yeah, man. I mean, it's just how do you convince people to make things more difficult for themselves? You know, how do you convince someone who's live a life of hedonism to make things harder for themselves on purpose?
To remind them of the benefit, or tell them of the benefit of doing that.
Yes, you would feed them logic, but you're feeding the logic to an emotional person. That's the dilemma. You know?
So because that's something I've learned is when someone's too logical, you gotta combat that with emotion. When someone's too emotional, you gotta combat that with logic.
Right. Hedonism is an emotional issue because it's just all about feeling good. What is a feeling if not an emotion? You know. So we like to think that we can just go up to someone who's hedonistic and tell them, hey, you should inconvenience yourself to become more resilient. And on paper, that sounds good. But if you actually have those conversations with those people, that's not how that goes at all.
Well, of course, you got to develop a relationship first. That's for sure.
Even then, man. I mean, I have a cousin. Oh, okay, I have
It increases the probability of them being receptive. Right?
All you can do is plant the seed. Mm-hmm. That's all you can do, dude. And then from there, you just kind of got to leave it as it is and hope that they water it. And then at that point, you would just kind of have to count on some kind of trauma or miracle, one of the two, to change their character. Because after a certain point, bro, I mean, I do not believe in you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I don't believe in that. That's, you know, to me, that's horse shit. There's always room to learn. It doesn't matter how old you are, you can learn, man. You can develop. You can grow and develop no matter how old you are.
Amen.
You know what I mean? So I don't like that. But I do think that it is hard to move someone from a fixed mindset if they've been there their whole life into a growth mindset. That is difficult. That's very difficult, especially if they already have a victim mentality. Because now not only have they learned to identify as a victim, but they've also learned to more than likely weaponize it. It's their entitlement that allows them to stay there, you know? And you're trying to take that away from them. You're trying to take away the thing that they've developed as like a survival mechanism.
Would you say you're a good judge of character?
I like to believe so.
What are some red flags and green flags in someone's character?
Any? Or related to resilience?
Let's relate to resilience.
how they handle perceived up and coming situations. So like I have a friend and we play video games, right? And I know, like, you know, especially like in this kind of setting, nobody likes video games, but I think they're great, honestly. And I was playing this game with my friend and we were on a losing streak. And he started like naysaying, bro. He's like, oh, I don't even see the point. What's the point of using this or that if we're just gonna lose it? You know what I mean? And that is huge. That's a huge. You can translate that into sports. You know, like say like you're on a football team or something. I've never actually been on a sports team since I was like 14. So, saying that, imagine like you're on a losing streak with your team, right? And let's say that one of your teammates is now in this really negative state of mind, where they're like, well, what's the point of even trying if we're just gonna lose? That's telling. That's a red flag. You can defeat that person into submissiveness, literally. You can defeat them into surrender, you know? That's huge, how they view perceived and up-and-coming situations. They haven't even played the game yet, but in their mind, they already lost. You know what I mean? It's a loser mentality, bro. It's like you're not even there yet, but you've lost so many times. Why expect anything different from yourself?
Would you say someone is confused, or there's something to be said up, for example, someone who has worked 2 jobs for years and years and years and saying, why can't I get ahead? Why can't I get ahead? Yet they're sticking to the same jobs because they're paying bills, right? There's some level of responsibility there. Yet they're saying, why can't I get ahead? Right? I'm working hard, I have to pick up another job.
So right there, in that specific situation, I would say that person more than likely was told that if they work hard, they'll succeed. And they've been told that their whole lives. And now they're there, and they're working hard, and they're not succeeding. And so in their mind, it's like, well, what the hell? This is what everybody told me, and now it's not working out. Why is that? You know, and they can't perceive that advice that they were given, was from a bygone era. It's like, you know, how these days, in 2026, when I was growing up, bro, my mom told me all the time, all you have to do to be successful is go to college. That was it. You just had to go to college. She never specified like a degree you had to get or anything like that. If you went to college,
it was vague.
Yes,
it was vague.
But that was true when she was up and coming. When she was in college, that was true.
Right.
All you had to do was have a degree, and you're cool. It didn't matter what the fuck you had a degree in. You can have a degree in lesbian dance theory, and you could get a great job. It didn't fucking matter. That's not the case these days. That advice was prudent in her time, not in ours. So in that specific situation, I would say that person was given prudent advice from a bygone era. See, but now comes our part in the journey where we have to realize that's not how the world is anymore. It's not hard work alone that'll get you to success. We like to believe that, but it's more than that these days. And so to that person, I would say, look, man, straight up, it's fucked up, but whoever told you that, it was true when they said it, but it's not true anymore.
You made me think about a quote right now by Eric Hoffer. In times of change, learners, ERS, inherit the earth, while the learned, ED, find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists.
Yes, 100%. That's fucking fantastic. Who was that?
Eric Hoffer. Eric Hoffer.
Yeah.
And I heard Bob Proctor quote him. That's where I first heard it from Bob Proctor.
But yeah. So then in that case, I would just tell that person, look, dude, it's fucked up, but what you told doesn't really apply anymore. This idea that working hard is all you have to do to succeed does not apply anymore. And now if you
to the extent that it once did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anymore being the implication. Yeah. So to that person, I would say it's fucked up, but I know you're already sacrificing a lot, but you have to sacrifice more. It's fucked, but it's true, man. And I would say, okay, obviously this is a hypothetical person, but I would look for what I think would help them get to success in our day and age. And, you know, success is, in this day and age, it's so fucking like relative, you know? It's so relative these days. Because for me, success is gonna look like me garnering attention for my story, being a performer, a speaker, a storyteller, you know? That's what success is gonna be for me. That's not what success is going to be for everybody.
Right.
You know, it's different for everyone now. There are a million paths to success in this day and age. You got to find yours. And I can't really tell you how to do that. I can tell you what I found out about mine. I found out that what I was missing more than anything was passion. I was never passionate about any of my endeavors prior to what I'm doing now. Never. You know, like this right here, I'm going to sleep at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and then I still wake up to come do this because I'm passionate about this. This actually means something to me, you know. Versus in the past, if I was waking up like to go to like one of my jobs, I would just call out or something. I didn't care about it. I wasn't passionate about it. So my advice in this day and age, for those of you who were given advice for a bygone era that does not apply anymore, is to find what you are passionate about. Especially because we live in an attention economy, and there is just something about someone who is working towards and speaking about something that they're passionate about that is just captivating.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just catches our attention, man. So I would say passion is the big thing these days, and that might not be applicable in the future. Keep that in mind. But yeah, find your passion, man, and hope to God that stays relevant. What else you got?
Okay, now here's the question. Do you think this is all planned? So for example, with the pumping out of pornography, is it planned to sedate humans, to keep them numb, to keep them stuck?
I do believe so, but I don't think it's a human plan. I think it's something else entirely. I've always felt like there was something more going on here, man. And I've always thought it was like a person, like human like us doing it. And as time went on and I met more people, I'm like, there's no fucking way. We're too incompetent. You know what I mean? Humans are too short-lived. We're too short-lived and we're too incompetent. For humans to have orchestrated all of this, they would have to have access to technology that allowed them to continue to live for a very long period of time. More than likely, it's probably like a family who's devoted to some horrible thing, maybe like money or whatever, and maybe one of their ancestors laid out like an old plan, and the family's been following that plan for years, you know, world domination plan type deal, something like that, maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's a human though. We don't live long enough. If it is a human, then they've bypassed aging, you know, something like that. I do think this is all by design. I do not think that it is by human design. Yeah, it would have to be something that lives longer and can see further. But for sure, it is by someone's design.
And what is the design aiming to distract us from?
Our own divinity. Can you imagine what would fucking happen if all of humanity actually got along? Seriously?
Think about that.
Dude, like...
Think about that, yo. Mm-hmm.
We would conquer the fucking universe, like, seemingly overnight, you know?
We're just scratching the surface, bro.
Seriously,
we are just scratching the surface.
I talk about this a lot in my private works. I haven't published anything yet, so nobody would know about it. But I wholeheartedly believe that humanity evolved from a pack animal a long time ago, a very long time ago. And I think what we are now is a hive mind with amnesia. We are a hive mind who has forgot it is a hive mind, or we are a hive mind in its infancy. One of the two. We're a hive mind that doesn't know that we're a hive mind. So if you don't know what a hive mind is, that would be like a bees or ants, you know? That level of cooperation, that like the whole species dedicated to one fucking endeavor, man. I think that's what we were before. I don't know what happened. I'm not gonna claim to know anything like that. But I think it's very strange that humans can link up neurally. That's a real fucking thing, man. I've had friends who could just read my mind, and I could read theirs, legit. We spent so much time together, we were connected like that. We had a hive mind. Microcosms, macrocosms, man. How much further can we take that?
Energy, frequency, vibrations.
Seriously. We can all link up on the same thing. That's possible. That's a real thing, you know? And I think, how is it that all of humanity have come down to the same conclusion? Something happens after you die. And how is it that we came down to the same conclusion that there's a good place and a bad place? And how is it that we came to the same conclusion that the person who decides where we go lives in the sky? That's a common conclusion across the fucking globe for longer than history. Right? That's crazy. How the fuck did we all come down to that same idea even though none of us ever met each other? For thousands of years. There's something there. In some way we are connected.
Right.
In some way. And in my mind, I like to believe that way would be a hive mind. We're like a hive mind without a queen. A hive mind without a center. We're still connected. We just don't fucking know it. You know what I mean? And I think that keeping humans disconnected would be the main goal of this perceived, unseen evil, you know, to keep us disconnected so that we don't ever realize our own divinity, you know? Because if all of humanity got along, cancer wouldn't be a thing. World hunger would not be a thing. Homelessness would not be a thing. Right. Mental illness would not be a thing. You know what I mean? Like, we'd eradicate that stuff overnight. And I think that's, I don't know to what end our suffering does for them, but it does something. I know that much. But I don't know. I mean, I get it, bro. Kind of. I mean, when I was still like a really terrible person, all I really got was gratification. I didn't get paid for it. I was a fucking kid for most of it, you know? It just felt good to do. I was just hateful. I don't think hate needs a reason. And I think that's what people get fucked up about, like all these like prolific like serial killers and stuff like that. They're looking for a logical answer, for a logical reason when there is none. You know, gratification. It's that fucking simple. It just feels good. It's that simple, man. And I think that's what's hard for people to grasp because most people aren't that hateful, you know. Most people aren't so hateful. The mere act of sadism is enough to gratify you. To us, in our minds, if we're doing something like that, it has to be to an end. You know, like, oh, I have to feed my family and I'm stuck in a third world country or some bullshit like that, you know. Sometimes evil is just evil, and that's all it is, man. Straight up.
Now, is suffering evil?
No.
No, right? That's the theme of the Bible. Suffering or redemption.
No. Okay, so we know suffering isn't evil because of its presence in nature. Nobody fucking dies of old age in nature, bro. That's a human concept. That's a human thing. Like, humans are so far removed from our natural world that in our minds, not dying of old age is a horrific thing. But if you look at nature, no one fucking dies of old age. You're lucky if you die of old age. Alright, bro? Even if you're a fucking lion, the likelihood of you dying of old age is like this much. More than likely, a younger, stronger lion is gonna come and fuck you up and beat your ass to death. Even the kings die horribly in nature here. Let's say even you're an herbivore, a smart herbivore that has eluded predators their whole lives. Then you know what happens? Your fucking teeth decay. And then you can't eat anymore. And then you starve to death. Life on Earth is cruel. Suffering is just a part of our experience. That's just what it is. It's not really... It's just natural. I wouldn't really call it equal or anything like that. It just is.
Right.
You can't really get rid of it. Right. You know? We love to believe that we can. It's a nice little fantasy, bro, that we can get rid of suffering. But it's always going to be there.
Why do people avoid suffering? Or why do people avoid inconvenience themselves? And there's a level of suffering that I would say to inconvenience yourself, living a certain way for so long in a fixed mindset, and then attempting to have a growth mindset. You have to inconvenience yourself. Yeah. Yes. So there's suffering in that.
Yes.
Right?
Growth is suffering. Yeah. And you asked me why do people avoid that?
Yeah.
Hedonism. It doesn't feel good. I think the majority of the world's problems come back to hedonism. This is how you feel. It's the same thing with like people not being able to listen to other ideologies, man. I mean, what is it more than it makes me feel bad to hear? You know? Like, okay, if we're being honest, where we live, how often do you see someone move to a point of violence because the opposing ideology legitimately just isn't a good idea? It's rare. Most of the time when people are moved to political violence, it is because the idea of something opposing theirs is so uncomfortable that they feel the need to kill to rid themselves of it. And that's what it is most of the time.
You know what you made me think right now when you said hedonism?
So,
I'm reading this book. Well, I've read it. It's called Redescubre Catolicismo, Rediscover Catholicism. And it talks about what our world, where suffering, people avoid suffering. You mentioned hedonism.
yeah.
Two other that it talks about, individualism and minimalism. So why am I bringing these up? So I'll start with individualism. Isolation. When you isolate yourselves, you're a weaker vessel. You're a weaker vessel. So there's a difference between isolation and solitude, right? It is important to have solitude, to be away from the community,
yeah.
Solitude. Jesus did it. But isolation is something totally different.
It's negative. Mm-hmm. Solitude is positive. No.
Also, I would say the intention with, that what makes the difference.
Intention is pretty fucking important. Mm-hmm.
And then minimalism, bro. Psychology says the fear of loss is greater than the desire for gain. So people are fine with the bare minimum. People are fine. You know, there's so much more. That's why the first thing I said in your car, what a life. How deep we can go in this life, brother.
Yeah.
It's beyond our comprehension. It's beyond our mind. Metanoia, beyond mind. It's Greek.
Metanoia? Mm-hmm. I like that.
Metanoia. Yeah. The possibilities. I have it recorded. You're recording the possibilities.
You have no idea what can be real. You cannot imagine what can be real. You cannot imagine all the things that can be real. There it is.
So people are not, and I put myself in this bucket too. And something's been clicking with me. Juan, I heard it recently and said, I can be doing better. I can be doing better. The human spirit. So that's what minimalism is a downfall of our societies. Accepting the bare minimum. People are not living up to their full potential, what they're capable of. And so that's what, again, coming back, we're scratching the surface, bro. We're scratching the surface.
So I actually kind of like minimalism, but from an efficiency standpoint. You know, doing more with the least. Doing the most with the least. I'm huge on that, you know what I mean? But I do see where you're coming from. You know, where we should aim to be more rather than being okay with what we are. I agree with that for sure. See, but the hard part there is like trying to get people to want more, because I mean we're pushing to this place where we have to be grateful for everything, and you should be, obviously. But see, then when you start to strive for more, it almost feels greedy, you know. And I get that. I feel that way. I don't listen to it, but I feel it. It's like, oh, I want a nicer house. I want a nicer car. I want better food. You know, I want better clothes. You know, I want better things. And there's this part of me that's like, well, why can't you just be happy with what you have? And then that took me a really long time, that battle, man. You know, that being grateful for what I have, but still desiring more. Mm-hmm. And finding that middle ground was very difficult. It took me a long time, man. I mean, like, yes, we should be grateful. We should be grateful to have a house. We should be grateful for food. We should be grateful for cups, clothes. There's places in the world, and it's fucked up, but there's places in the world where they don't have that, you know? It's kind of crazy to think about, but it's true. And yes, we should be grateful for what we have, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't strive for more. Man, you can be grateful for what you have and still strive for more. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's something that, especially where we live, there's a big fucking, like, boogeyman, invisible boogeyman about wanting to have more, you know? Because requiring more requires a lot of sacrifice, you know? And I think that's what fucks people up, is that, like, in your quest for more, you will have to sacrifice things. It's just a part of it. And sometimes the sacrifice you have to make is your fucking family. I would say more than sometimes, honestly. And so that's where this whole, like, your quest for more is having you sacrifice your family, which is harming the family, so it must not be good. And that's where that whole, well, you should just be grateful for what you have instead of striving for more in our community, I would say that's where it comes from. So I understand the minimalist thing and being okay with what you have. I get it. It's a little more complicated than just wanting to have more and just like switching your mind state, because there's more to that. And you ask anyone who's been successful, they'll tell you, man, like once you start winning, your family's gonna hate on you, man. Mm-hmm. They're gonna hate on you for doing more. They're gonna say, well, why are you doing more? Why can't you just be okay with what you have? You know? So it's up to you, man, to find that middle ground.
True.
Between, am I being greedy or am I just doing better? And that's, no one can really do that for you. Honestly, you have to find out for yourself. And you have to ask yourself what's important, bro. I can straight up, for me, success is more important than my family. Fucked up, but it's true. You know what I mean? Because in my perspective...
How would you say you're grateful for your family?
I'm grateful for the benefits I get from them. I wouldn't say I'm grateful for them specifically, honestly.
That's honest.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I have yet to talk about this with my parents. We haven't published any of our work, so that's why I'm okay seeing it now. Because I would imagine by the time we publish this, I would have had that conversation with them. But the second that I become financially independent And me and my parents are going to be on a first name basis. You know? They've lost their utility to me. You staying in my life after that is a fucking privilege that I'm extending to you. You know? It's fucked up, but I mean, and it seemed, outside looking in, it seems fucked up, but if you know my story, it makes a lot more sense. But, yeah. Circling it all back, man. I mean, finding that middle ground between minimalism and wanting more is very difficult. I think it just kind of more depends on what you're willing to sacrifice to have that more.
Right.
You know? That's about it.
That's good, bro. So we gotta start from a place of gratitude. Got to.
You have
to start from. We're talking about character. Mm-hmm. We gotta start from a place of gratitude.
Gratitude is one of the most coveted virtues in the world, man. Seriously, you see that in like almost every culture and every religion. Gratitude, bro. We have to start.
Okay, here's a question: would you say this generation is more entitled than
yes?
Okay.
Yes, I was too for a very long time. I still struggle with that.
Now here's a question: would you say entitlement is correlated with ungratefulness? The more entitled someone is, the less grateful they are.
Yes, I would. Yeah. Not always, but yeah. I mean, more than likely the two are linked: entitlement and ingratitude.
So see, there's something to hardship, bro. There's something to be said about suffering.
It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
The word itself implies that it is not easy. And suffering is relative. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, okay, I'm trying to think of a good example, and I'm thinking something in the gym because I think that's universal. It's like, if me and Chris go to the gym and I am hitting a weight that is difficult for me and it's suffering for me, but then Chris hits the same weight and it's not suffering for him, then he is not suffering. But if you take that same weight and calculate it in a percentage and give it to Chris's body weight, now he would be suffering. You cannot have suffering and hardship disconnected from each other. They're one and the same. It's literally implied in the word. You can't suffer gently. It's not a fucking thing. Then you're not suffering, right. You know? You know, suffering is like it's personal, it's relative, it's individual, it's unique to each and every person. You cannot have hardship without suffering. It's not something you can disconnect, man. You know what I mean? It's essential. I mean, it's eternal. Honestly. Suffering will always be there for all of us. None of us get to escape it. Even if what makes me suffer doesn't make you suffer, you have your own suffering. We all suffer. It's just how it is. All of us. Doesn't matter what you are, insect, amphibian, mammal, apex predator, prey, bottom feeder, it don't matter. At some point in time you're going to suffer. And they will be specifically designed just for you.
Okay, now here's a question. We had said this yesterday, or I had said this yesterday, that it doesn't get easier, we get stronger. Now, someone has to be aware of that. So if someone's not aware of that, Juan, and they live an easy life their entire life, they're going to live a harder life down the road, right? As opposed to doing the hard things now, taking it upon yourself to put the hardship, inconvenience yourself now, so that way you're stronger in the future. Yes. And you'll live an easier life, right?
Yes.
In the future.
Yeah. I came up with this. This is an original saying of mine. I came up with this like years ago. Voluntarily suffering eases involuntary suffering. And that's something people have known for the dawn of time, man. It's just like working out, bro. I mean, if you want to be able to, there will come a time in your life where you will need to be athletic. It happens to all of us at some fucking point in time. Some emergency will emerge where you will need to be athletic. Now, will your adrenaline carry you through? Fuck, probably. Who knows? Moms flip over cars to save their kids. Right. You know what I mean?
Maybe human spirit.
Yeah.
We are resilient.
Yes.
Innately.
Yeah.
Innately.
I mean, we're lucky in that way.
Yeah.
It's just we're built with it, man. But circling back, will your adrenaline rush carry you through this time of crisis? Perhaps. but you're gambling.
Right.
If you want to be sure in that time of crisis that you will be athletic, you must voluntarily suffer now. Voluntary suffering eases involuntary suffering. We all suffer at some point in time, but the degree varies in our choices, honestly. We don't choose what happens to us, but we can choose how we respond to it. And we can have a better response by choosing to suffering ahead of time. Choosing to suffer in the pursuit of growth. Because suffering cannot be nourishing, if we're being honest.
Right, I've said this before. Beating change to the punch. Change is constant, right? So choose to be the change you want to see in the world. Choose to be that change now. Gosh.
I like that, beating change to the punch.
Us humans, what makes us superior to every other species is our adaptability. Yes. For better or for worse.
We can sweat. That's actually pretty unique as far as animals go. Yeah, man. I mean, how does it go? Survival of the fittest, right? But somebody said something else later. They changed it. I can't think of fucking names right now, but it is not the fittest that survives or the strongest, but the most adaptable. It's real, bro. Adapt, man. Put yourself through bullshit voluntarily until you learn to adapt, but within reason. Within reason. Yeah. In prudence. Would you say in prudence? Or with prudence.
With prudence.
Yes. Suffer with prudence, man. I'm not fucking saying sell your fucking house and give away all your fucking money or anything like that, okay? Like yeah, that would be suffering, but don't. That's stupid. That's fucking dumb. That's not what I mean, obviously. You know, what I mean when I say this is like, or run a mile more than you usually do. You know, lift like 10 pounds more than you usually do. You know, like cut out sugar, less screen time. You know, get outside more. If you're socially anxious, socialize more. That's what I mean, man. The kind of suffering that builds you into something better, not the kind of suffering that ruins your entire fucking life. All right, and I say that because I'm thinking about who I used to be and how I would have taken that, and that's how I would have taken it. Oh, I have to suffer. Me burn my house down. You know, like seriously, like I would take things like out of context like that. You know, and that's something that's very important for all you would-be teachers, man. Make sure that your students understand the fucking context. All right.
Yes.
Do not leave shit up for interpretation. And you shouldn't leave things up for interpretation because you're gonna get a little crazy bastard like me who's gonna interpret it in some really fucked up way.
Bastard, by the way, is someone who grew up without a dad. Was raised without a dad.
You said what?
I'm a bastard. Someone who was raised without a dad.
Yeah. But originally, it was used in the context that your parents weren't married.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you had to... Think of Game of Thrones, if you've seen it. Have you?
No.
Oh, dude, it's fantastic.
I don't make time for that. No, I'm not going to make time for
that. I mean, if you ever just fucking bedridden or something like that, watch it, bro. It's fantastic.
Hard pass.
A lot of good insights in there. But anyways, yeah, bastard to somebody whose parents weren't married. Anything else?
Before we get started? Because we covered a lot of great stuff. That's it for now.
Okay. We're gonna, usually before we move on to like the actual episode, we come up with like an agenda. So that's what we're gonna do now. So what did you want to cover about resilience?
While you touching it, involuntary suffering now eases involuntary suffering later. So becoming stronger now. Because you said it and it's true. Our society has structured itself around making things easier for centuries.
That's been the whole fucking human mission, bro. Making things easy for the next generation. What episode is this? 3?
This is 1, 2, 3, 4.
We're on 4?
We did professional development. Oh no, that's something for work. We did parenthood on the outside looking in.
We did that one.
And then 2 parts with emotional intelligence.
So, but the last part we did was part 2 of episode 2.
Oh, you're right.
So this would be episode 3?
Episode 3.
Okay. Episode 3, resilience. This is actually a subject of expertise of mine. I'm gonna start big. My first point is gonna be purpose. You want to be resilient, you have to have a purpose, man. There has to be a reason to suffer. Purpose.
Right. Or else you're aimlessly... You're aimless in life.
Yeah. What's the point?
You're vulnerable. When you're aimless, people take advantage of you.
So I have purpose, self-belief, because you have to believe that you can make it, honestly. I talk about that in my speech too, man. If you don't believe that you're resilient, you're not. You know what I mean?
Right. You're not going to see it in your mind.
Right.
That's where it starts.
Building resilience, but we both want to cover that one. So, and then what resilience looks like in the modern era. Because if you went back in time, like a couple hundred years ago, resilience, what it is to us and what it is back then are 2 different things. Resilience back then was not fucking dying during the winter. For us, it's not jacking off. You know what I mean? Like it changes. What resilience looks like is fluid. It's formless. Resilience is formless because it can look like different things, man. Okay, bet. Alright, on to the real episode. Now, one thing that we want to be fully transparent about with you.
The framework and structure you heard here today was developed with the assistance of Claude AI.
The ideas, the mission, and the conversation are entirely ours.
But we believe in being honest with the people in this room about every tool we use to serve you.
Because that is what self-mastery looks like when actually practiced.
Using every resource available to you with integrity.
And before we go, if anything landed with you and lingered longer than you expected, talk about it in the comments. We want to hear about that.
And if someone came to mind while you were listening, someone who needs to find this room, send it to them. Not for us, for them.
And if you're still here, still listening, still a part of this room,
subscribe. Not because we asked, because you don't want to miss what's next. And always remember, it gets better, but not if you quit. Keep going.